She was removed from business class. For a white man, they thought she was just another older black woman who wouldn't make a fuss, but what they didn't know, she was the one holding the pen that could shut the whole company down. Who was this woman? Why did every executive in the company suddenly go silent when they saw her name? And what made the internet say she didn't just reclaim her seat, she rewrote the rules of the sky, wherever you're listening from? Atlanta, Oakland, Detroit, Lagos. Tell me, have you or someone you love ever been made to feel invisible? You're not alone, and you're not powerless. Subscribe to this channel, and let's begin the story. The boarding call for Flight 227 had just gone out when Evelyn Ruth Carter stepped onto the jet bridge at Gate G27 in Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. She moved with the kind of slow, deliberate grace that made people assume two things. She was harmless, and she was ordinary. Her coat was a soft brown tweed, buttoned neatly all the way up despite the spring warmth. Her hair, steel gray coils tucked beneath a wool beret, gave away her age, but not her presence. She carried no designer handbag, only a sturdy leather tote that had clearly been with her longer than most people's marriages. When she reached the cabin door, the flight attendant glanced down without smiling. "Boarding pass, Mom?" Evelyn offered it with a warm nod. The attendant barely looked at the paper before handing it back. "Turn right, straight through, row 4, seat D." Evelyn nodded again and walked toward business class. The aircraft was still half empty. She stepped gently into the row, placed her tote under the seat, and sat down. Aisle seat, second row from the front, business class. She folded her hands over her lap and exhaled like someone settling in after a long week. That breath lasted less than 10 seconds. A sharp voice cut through from behind her shoulder. "I'm sorry, ma'am. This section is for our premium passengers." Evelyn looked up slowly. The flight attendant from the door had followed her down the aisle. Her name tag read Melissa. Her face was perfectly composed, but her tone had changed, firmer now. Evelyn replied, calm as still water. "Yes, this is my seat." Melissa tilted her head. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." There was a beat of silence. Melissa looked down at Evelyn's boarding pass again, still in her hand. She scrutinized it like it had suddenly become suspicious. "I think there's been a mistake," Melissa said. "Let me check with the gate." Before Evelyn could respond, Melissa turned and walked briskly to the front. Evelyn didn't move. She simply reached into her coat pocket and pulled out her reading glasses. Just as she was adjusting them on her nose, another passenger entered the row. A white man, mid-40s, sharp blue blazer, Bluetooth in one ear, glanced at Evelyn, then did a double take. He looked confused, then amused. "I think you might be in my seat," he said. "I'm 4D. Evelyn smiled, polite but firm. "So am I." "Oh, you sure?" His tone was light, like someone talking to a kind old neighbor who just got the trash schedule mixed up. "Yes." Melissa returned with another flight attendant in tow, a younger black woman named Carla who hung back silently. "Ma'am?" Melissa said. "This seat is assigned to Mr. Wallace. We'll need you to move to your assigned seat in the main cabin." Evelyn adjusted her glasses. "I believe there's been a mix-up. This is my assigned seat, business class 4D. "Do you have a confirmation email?" Melissa asked, crossing her arms. "No, but I have the boarding pass issued at check-in," Evelyn said evenly. Melissa took the pass again. Her eyebrows furrowed. "It says 4D, but this isn't the fare class associated with your ticket." The words fare class hung in the air like a code that Evelyn wasn't supposed to understand. From 2 rows behind, a voice whispered, "You seeing this?" Carla leaned closer to Melissa, whispering, "Maybe just double-check the map." But Melissa was already waving toward the front. "We need a supervisor at seat 4D. Possible misboarding." Kevin Wallace, the white man in the blazer, stepped back, smiling apologetically at Evelyn as if she were the one making a scene. "I'm sure they'll sort it out," he said, then added with a chuckle, "Flying's always a mess these days." Evelyn didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the seat in front of her. Carla gently asked, "Would you mind just stepping to the side for a moment while we sort it out?" "I prefer to stay seated," Evelyn replied. Carla hesitated. "I understand, ma'am, but it may make things faster." Evelyn looked up at her. "I paid for this seat. I've traveled this route monthly for the past 12 years. This is not the first time I've flown business class." From behind them, someone's phone clicked on. A low hum of whispers floated through the cabin. Tamika Boyd, 23, sitting in row 6A, pulled out her phone and hit record. "She ain't even raising her voice," Tamika muttered to herself, "and they're trying to move her like she's some stowaway." More phones came out. The hush was spreading. Melissa returned, this time with a man in a blazer, ground staff. His name tag read Thomas Griggs. He looked at Evelyn. "Ma'am, we believe your original ticket may have been upgraded by mistake. We'll reassign your seat in main cabin and offer you a $75.00 voucher." Evelyn's eyes didn't blink. "No?" Thomas blinked. "No?" he repeated. Evelyn's voice remained soft. "I'm not moving from the seat I paid for. Ma'am, refusing crew instructions can result in removal from the aircraft. And denying a passenger their confirmed seat based on assumptions can result in federal violation," she replied. That silenced him. Kevin Wallace cleared his throat. "I really don't mind waiting. I've got time." Melissa smiled at him, grateful. "Thank you, Mr. Wallace. We'll get this resolved quickly." Tamika's voice was suddenly loud. "Y'all really gonna move this lady?" She showed her ticket why nobody asked him for proof. Melissa turned. "Ma'am, please don't interfere." "I'm not interfering," Tamika said. "I'm just filming. Ain't that allowed?" Thomas turned to Melissa. "Get a verification from HQ. Something's not adding up." Melissa nodded, still looking uneasy. Carla avoided Evelyn's eyes. The cabin had changed. What started as whispers had turned into a kind of electric silence, the kind that waits. And Evelyn, hands folded, lips closed, waited with it. By the time the cabin supervisor arrived, 2 more passengers were recording, not arguing, not shouting, just watching, like they'd all sensed something wasn't right. Melissa stood tall at the front of the business class section, trying to steady her tone. Her eyes darted from Thomas to the phone screens, then back to Evelyn, who still hadn't moved. "Ma'am," Melissa began again, "I understand you believe this is your seat, but until our system confirms—" "I don't believe," Evelyn said. "I know." The words weren't loud, but they cut clean. Thomas took a half step forward. "We're asking you to cooperate. Please move to seat 18F for now." Evelyn didn't raise her voice. She simply asked, "Did Mr. Wallace show you his ticket?" There was a pause. "No, ma'am, but his boarding pass is in the system." "So is mine," Evelyn said. "The only difference is what you assumed when you saw me." That landed harder than she'd intended, and the people watching felt it. From behind row 6, Tamika turned to the woman beside her. "You heard that, right?" The woman nodded. "Sure did." Tamika lifted her phone slightly higher. Her TikTok stream was already live. Comments rolled in. "She ain't wrong, though. The calm in her voice is terrifying." "They didn't even ask the white guy for proof. Again, they better not touch her." Tamika whispered into the mic. "This feels different, y'all. I don't know why, but this ain't just another video. Something big is coming." The live stream continued. Tamika leaned down toward Evelyn. "Let me call upstairs. May I see your ID, ma'am?" Evelyn handed it over without a word. Her driver's license, her boarding pass, a small silver card, matte finish, no flashy logos, with only 5 words in embossed lettering. Ruth and Carter Holdings, with only 5 words in embossed lettering. Ruth and Carter Holdings, with only 5 words in embossed lettering. "This ain't about priority." Thomas turned it over, frowning. "Never seen this one before." "Most people haven't," Evelyn replied. "Carla," The younger flight attendant glanced at the card, then at Evelyn. Her lips parted slightly. "I think I've heard of this," she said under her breath. Melissa snapped, "Carla, stay focused." Thomas pulled out a tablet entering Evelyn's name. He squinted at the screen, then quickly turned the device so Melissa could see. A red label blinked at the top of Evelyn's passenger file. "Do not delay." Flagged. Melissa's throat tightened. "Where'd that come from?" she muttered. Carla stepped closer. "She's flagged in our system for expedited handling. We're supposed to notify management." Before Melissa could respond, Evelyn took her ID back. "I'll give you 3 minutes to sort this out. Then I'll be making a call of my own." It wasn't a threat, it was a statement of schedule, and she didn't check her phone, she checked her watch. A gold piece, vintage, elegant, with initials etched faintly into the strap. ERC. Carla caught the letters. Evelyn Ruth Carter. Her hand flew to her mouth, recognition dawning, but she said nothing. Meanwhile, Tamika whispered into her stream, "Y'all, ERC, do that name sound familiar? Evelyn R. Carter. Google it real quick." The comments flooded in. "Wait, that's the logistics CEO? Ruth and Carter Holdings? They run half the damn supply chain. No way that's her. She looked like somebody's sweet grandma. I knew I'd seen her in Forbes." Tamika's voice rose slightly. "Is this real life right now?" Kevin Wallace, still waiting in the aisle, glanced back at Evelyn, then at the murmuring cabin. "What's happening?" he asked quietly. Melissa tried to regain control. "Nothing, just a misunderstanding." But it was too late. The air had shifted. People weren't just watching now, they were alert. Evelyn leaned back in her seat, folded her hands, and whispered something only Carla heard. 3 minutes left. Thomas Griggs stood frozen. His tablet still displayed Evelyn's profile. "Do not delay. Priority VIP. Internal verification. Board level." He tapped the screen again. And again. It wasn't a glitch. This wasn't some loyalty card perk. This wasn't a customer who flew off, and this was a flag he'd only seen twice in 10 years. The kind assigned by corporate legal or executive operations, not for not even politicians. This kind of flag came from the people who signed partnership contracts or wrote them. Thomas looked at Evelyn, for the first time, really looked, and for the first time he felt afraid. Melissa leaned over. "What does that even mean?" Thomas didn't answer. Evelyn tilted her head. "Is there a problem with your system, Mr. Griggs?" He blinked. "No, ma'am." "Then I suggest you use it properly." Her voice never rose, but something about the way she said "properly" made Carla instinctively stand up straighter. Kevin Wallace shifted in the aisle. "I just want to get seated," he muttered. Carla spoke up. "Maybe we should hold boarding a moment." Thomas nodded. "I'll notify command center." But Evelyn had already reached into her tote. Not a phone. A thin leather folder zipped along the edge. She placed it gently on the tray table and unzipped it. Inside was a set of embossed business cards. Black and white, simple font, no logo. She slid one across the table to Thomas. He picked it up, read it, and turned pale. Evelyn Ruth Carter, Executive Chairwoman, Ruth and Carter Holdings, Strategic Stakeholder, Indigo Aviation Group. Melissa frowned. "Is that one of our partners?" "No," Thomas said quietly. "It's one of our owners." Now Carla gasped. "What?" Evelyn leaned forward just slightly. "Ruth and Carter Holdings acquired a 19% equity stake in your parent company last October," she said. "You'd know that if you read your internal bulletins." Melissa's mouth opened, then closed. Nothing came out. Tamika, 3 rows back, let out a whisper laugh. "Yeah, she owns part of the airline." Her TikTok was on fire. "We need this movie made. I'm screaming." Melissa about to lose her job in 3, 2. She got stock. She got silence. She got them shook. Evelyn calmly removed a pen from the folder, began writing notes on a page with a heading visible for just a second. Gate G27 incident log. Initial entry. Thomas' earpiece buzzed. He answered quickly. Yes? Yes, sir. I'm at the gate. Yes, she's here. Then, she's identified herself, yes. Confirmed. A pause. I understand. He lowered the mic. Miss Carter, our senior operations officer would like to speak with you. In person. Evelyn nodded. You have 90 seconds. Thomas blinked. Excuse me? I'll give you 90 seconds before I place a call to the board. The word hung there like a blade. From the front of the plane, Monica Durham, CEO of Indigo Aviation Group, stepped onto the jet bridge breathless. She had sprinted. In heels, she never ran, but today something bigger than policy was happening. Melissa saw her and went white. Wait! But Evelyn had already stood. She gathered her tote, her folder, and her silence, then turned toward the exit. Please escort me to the conference suite, she told Thomas. He obeyed. Not because she raised her voice, but because the entire system had just realized what it was sitting on. The conference suite at Gate G27 wasn't meant for real meetings. It was a room with fake wood panels, too many coffee stirs, and a round table that had seen more delay vouchers than serious decisions. But now it was where a corporation's pulse had relocated. Without permission, Evelyn sat at the head of the table, not because anyone offered her the seat, but because nobody dared suggest she shouldn't. Thomas stood to her right, Carla to her left. Melissa hadn't been invited. The door opened. Monica Durham entered, CEO of Indigo Aviation Group. Her blazer was flawless, her hair sleek, but her voice when she spoke was less sure than usual. SNL, Monica began, extending her hand. Evelyn didn't stand. Mr. Durham, she said, taking the hand firmly but without warmth. I trust you've been briefed? Monica nodded. I've seen the live stream. I've spoken with operations. Then I assume you're not here to explain, Evelyn interrupted. You're here to listen. Monica hesitated, then sat. Evelyn pulled a small folder from her tote and opened it. Inside was a printed packet no more than 7 pages. She slid the top sheet forward. I'm invoking Article 8.3 of the Shareholder Governance Clause, Evelyn said. Material Incident Tier 2. Monica's eyebrows lifted. You're triggering a governance audit? No, Evelyn said. I'm notifying you that it's already been triggered. Carla's eyes widened. Thomas sat slowly. Evelyn continued, voice steady. Flight staff denied a confirmed documented seat assignment. Verbal assumptions based on appearance. System override requests without credential check, all while the passenger in question was a flagged stakeholder, marked VIP in your system, and female, black, over 65. She looked Monica in the eye. Your team didn't just make a mistake. They revealed a pattern. One that mirrors existing federal complaints already under review. Monica swallowed. Ms. Carter, This isn't a complaint, Evelyn said quietly. This is a directive. She removed a second page. These are the terms I'm proposing before I contact external counsel. Monica took the paper. Her hands trembled slightly. She scanned quickly. Immediate de-escalation of all gate operations, temporary hold on Flight 227 departure, removal of all involved staff from active duty pending review, activation of internal ethics review protocol, private meeting with Indigo Board of Directors examined within 90 minutes. She looked up. You want to meet the board? Today? Evelyn smiled for the first time that morning, a small smile, controlled, knowing. Monica, she said, I am the board. The silence landed hard. No one moved. Tamika's voice crackled faintly from her live stream on someone's phone just outside. Y'all, she ain't fighting for a refund. She out here running the company. Monica stood up. I'll convene the directors. Evelyn stood too, but slower. And tell them, she added, gathering her things, we will not be meeting behind closed doors. Monica turned back. You want a public hearing? Evelyn looked toward the glass door, where passengers still gathered outside, pressing phones to windows. No, she said. I want accountability, and that only happens in the light. By the time Evelyn Carter stepped out of the conference room, the hallway beyond the gate had shifted. It was no longer a place where people waited to board a flight. It was an audience. Phones were raised, heads turned. No one spoke, but everyone was thinking the same thing. Something is happening, and it's not just about a seat. Evelyn walked with calm, unhurried steps, as if the terminal itself had slowed to match her pace. She didn't look left or right. She didn't acknowledge the phones, the stares, or the whispers behind cupped hands. Her presence was enough. Tamika, still filming from behind the glass, whispered into her mic, "Okay, y'all, she's coming out now." Her live stream had passed 74,000 viewers. The comment feed was scrolling too fast to read. All she could do was react. "I swear, if this woman walks back to that desk like she owned it." Evelyn turned toward the passenger service desk. Tamika gasped. "Oh my God, she's going straight to the desk." Inside the airline's control office, 2 floors up, a technician stared at an internal alert flashing red across the screen. Priority VIP. Escalation locked. Route temp blocked. Temp. Blocked. A supervisor walked by, saw it, and stopped. "Who triggered that?" "Passenger. Evelyn Ruth Carter." The supervisor paled. "She's on flight 227? She was, not anymore." Back at the gate, 2 gate agents whispered to each other behind the counter. "She's flagged as level red. I didn't even know we had level red." "She's not just some VIP," the other replied. "That's a stakeholder designation. She has equity in the airline group." "You mean she's an investor?" "No, I mean she's one of the owners." The words sat there for a moment like a dropped suitcase. "And then, we just tried to kick her out of business class." Across the concourse, another staff member murmured, "They're calling an emergency meeting." "For what?" "She invoked a clause, some kind of governance trigger. Is that legal?" "It's more than legal, it's binding." Inside Indigo Aviation Group's headquarters, a global email alert was sent out. The subject line, "Emergency Governance Protocol Activated, Initiated by Stakeholder E.R. Carter, ATL G27." The body read, "All PR, legal, and executive teams must prepare for immediate audit protocols. Ms. Evelyn Ruth Carter confirmed as Class A shareholder. Activation of Article 8.3 Material Incident Clause. Public scrutiny in progress. External visibility high." Back in the gate area, Thomas received a call through his earpiece. "She's heading toward the desk?" the voice asked. "Yes," he replied. "She's not turning back. Patch surveillance feed to crisis comms. What do we do?" There was a pause. "We wait." Tamika's phone shook in her hand as she zoomed in. Her voice trembled with disbelief. "She's asking for the flight manifest, y'all. She just requested the passenger list." From behind the counter, the young service agent blinked, stunned. I don't have permission to print that." Evelyn placed something gently on the desk. It wasn't loud, it didn't glow, but it radiated authority. A silver clearance card, stamped in quiet red letters. "Internal oversight, level red, verified." The young woman didn't ask questions after that. She simply nodded and turned to the printer. In a security room across the airport, 2 junior staffers sat in silence, watching the feed on a monitor. One of them leaned forward. "She didn't come here to fly." His colleague turned. "What?" "She didn't come to board a plane." "Then what's she here for?" He swallowed. "She came to activate the system." The waiting area at Gate G27 had transformed. It no longer felt like an airport. It felt like a courtroom or a live press conference. Every eye was watching Evelyn Carter, and she knew it. She didn't perform. She didn't gesture. She simply took her seat at the passenger service desk as if she belonged there, because she did. Thomas Griggs hovered nearby, unsure whether to speak or vanish. Carla stood to the side, avoiding eye contact with Melissa, who was now off the floor entirely. The young agent returned with the printed manifest. Her hands trembled as she handed it over. "Thank you," Evelyn said softly. She didn't look up. "You did the right thing." The agent exhaled like she'd just passed a final exam. Evelyn placed the manifest in her folder, zipped it up, and pulled out her phone. Not to scroll, not to record, to dial. The call was short, less than 30 seconds. "Yes, Gate G27. Tell legal I'm confirming trigger on 8.3. Board meeting within the hour. Public briefing required. Yes, live stream preferred." She hung up, then she looked at Thomas. "You'll need to suspend boarding on all flights departing from terminals F and G within the next 10 minutes. Thomas blinked. "Suspend all departures?" "For 1 hour," Evelyn said. "Minimal disruption, but necessary." I don't have the authority." "Which is why you'll escalate it now," she said, handing him a second silver card. This one wasn't just clearance. It bore the seal of Indigo Aviation Group shareholder governance embossed and initialed. Thomas took it like it was made of glass. He didn't ask another question. Across the building, in Indigo's fourth-floor headquarters, Monica Durham, CEO, stepped into the crisis room. Half her executive team was already there: legal counsel, PR, internal operations. A giant screen on the wall showed the live stream from Tamika Boyd's phone, now viewed by 230,000 people worldwide. On another screen, Evelyn's shareholder profile filled the space. Evelyn R. Carter, Executive Chairwoman. Ruth & Carter Holdings, Voting Class A Tier 1 Shareholder, Current Holdings, 19.4% equity in Indigo Aviation Group. Governance rights, active, emergency clause, triggered. "Jesus," muttered the VP of Ops. "She just shut down 2 terminals," said another. "No," Monica corrected him, "she just opened a review. And we're the ones being reviewed." At Gate G27, Evelyn finished reviewing the manifest. She folded her papers carefully and stood. Passengers stared. Some held their breath. Kevin Wallace, the business class passenger whose seat had sparked the entire situation, stood beside his wife. "That woman? She's doing more in an hour than this company's done in a decade," he murmured. His wife replied, "That's not just a woman. That's reckoning." Evelyn faced the gate agents. "I'm requesting a meeting room with broadcast capability and water, please." The agent nodded. "And one more thing," Evelyn added. "Yes?" "I don't want an apology." She paused. "I want a meeting." The conference room wasn't ready. Someone had tried to make it look respectable, fast. A table was wiped down, a carafe of water was placed at the center, a dusty microphone blinked to life, still crackling from disuse. But Evelyn Carter made no comment. She stepped inside, set her tote on the table, and waited. The door opened again. Monica Durham, CEO of Indigo Aviation Group, entered, with 2 board members flanking her, David Sharma and Lynn Falk. Both had flown in that morning for another matter entirely. Now this matter had eclipsed everything else. Evelyn didn't stand. She didn't offer pleasantries. "Miss Carter," Monica began carefully, "we'd like to first say—" "Let me stop you there," Evelyn said gently. "No apologies. Not yet." She opened her folder and slid a document across the table. "You'll recognize this." Monica read the title and paled. Clause 8.3, Material Incident Triggering Shareholder Oversight. David cleared his throat. "This clause hasn't been invoked in over a decade." "Then it's long overdue," Evelyn replied. She tapped the document once deliberately. As of 2 hours ago, I exercised my right to initiate a governance review following a public incident involving employee misconduct, reputational damage, and procedural failure against a shareholder-protected passenger, namely myself. Lynn shifted uncomfortably. Evelyn continued, flipping to a second page. This document confirms my equity holdings, 19.4%, voting Class A, with rights to convene emergency meetings, initiate personnel reviews, and temporarily halt non-essential operations. She looked up. And by non-essential, I do include outbound flights from terminals F and G. Monica swallowed. Ms. Carter. Ellen, she began. I had no idea you were traveling today. That's the problem, Evelyn interrupted. The way I was treated should never depend on whether you knew who I was. Her voice was calm, steady, but now it carried weight. The fact that I had to be somebody in order to be treated with dignity tells me your systems are broken at the root. David nodded slowly. Evelyn placed another document on the table. A quarterly audit summary. It showed something damning. Discrimination complaints, Q1, Q3, industry average 92. I funded an internal bias audit last year, Evelyn said. It was quietly shelved. This is the same rot, just visible now. Outside the room, the live stream count passed 410,000 viewers. The airline's name trended in 3 countries. One TikTok video, titled "The Lady Who Owned the Airline," had already hit 1 million likes in 40 minutes. Evelyn glanced at her watch. Within the next hour, I'll be briefing the public on what corrective actions Indigo plans to take. Lynn leaned forward. And if we don't move forward with those? Evelyn didn't blink. Then I begin public divestment, personal and institutional, followed by formal complaint to the FAA, SEC filings on corporate governance failure, and a third-party legal review. She paused. And if necessary, congressional testimony. The silence in the room was heavy now. She spoke again, quieter this time. Let me be clear. I did not come here today to file a grievance. I came to remind this company that it answers to more than its stock price. She opened her notebook, began writing again. Her voice was measured and final. I'm not here for compensation. I'm not here for a refund. I'm here to reintroduce accountability to your boardroom. The boardroom stayed quiet for a moment too long. That kind of silence doesn't come from confusion. It comes from recognition, of power, of reckoning. Evelyn Carter folded the final page of her notes, closed the folder, and said simply, "We'll begin now." Monica Durham straightened. "Begin what, exactly?" "Restoration," Evelyn replied, "of policy, structure, and trust." She handed over a fresh page. This one was typed, bullet-pointed. At the top, Interim Corrective Orders, Phase 1. It included 6 directives. Monica read them slowly. 1. Immediate administrative leave for all flight and gate personnel involved in ATL G27 incident. 2. Third-party review of all discrimination complaints filed within the last 18 months. 3. CEO and COO to issue public acknowledgement of policy failure. 4. Mandatory implicit bias training for all customer-facing staff with completion deadlines. 5. Establishment of a passenger equity task force chaired by Evelyn R. Carter. 6. Full transparency on all procedural changes to be published within 30 days. Monica looked up, stunned. "You wrote this? Today?" Evelyn gave the faintest smile. "I've had it written for months. I just didn't know when I'd need it." Lynn let out a slow breath. David scratched his temple. "This will go public," he muttered. Evelyn nodded. "It should." Behind them, the glass doors to the boardroom opened, this time with intention. A communications manager entered, pale and shaky. "Ma'am," she said to Monica, "the live streams crossed 500,000 viewers. We're trending worldwide. The press is waiting for a statement." Evelyn stood. "And let's give them one. She turned to Monica. "You'll take the podium beside me." "What am I supposed to say?" Monica asked, voice thin. Evelyn met her gaze. "You'll say what you should have said when you first saw that video. Not who is she, but what did we do wrong?" Outside in the gate area, Tamika still streamed. People were sitting now, not because they were tired, but because something bigger was unfolding. "This ain't just a viral moment," she whispered to her viewers. "This is that old school justice. That vintage class." She didn't yell, she didn't curse. She just walked in and rearranged the room. 10 minutes later, 2 women stepped in front of the press backdrop. Evelyn Carter, calm and deliberate, and Monica Durham, visibly humbled. A reporter called out, "Miss Carter, are you suing the airline?" Evelyn shook her head. "No," another shouted. "Then what do you want?" Evelyn smiled. "Better flights, fairer skies, and a system that doesn't need a last name to treat someone with respect." The press conference ended at 2:37 p.m., but the story didn't. Within minutes, newsrooms across the country scrambled for graphics, anchors rushed to camera, and inboxes exploded with requests. By 3:00, Evelyn Carter's name was on every screen from New York to Sacramento. Local news, national panels, even international feeds. But it wasn't her title they led with. It was her presence, her poise, her power, her refusal to raise her voice, and her ability to silence the room anyway. A breaking news segment aired on a popular network. The anchor leaned forward, eyes sharp. Let's be very clear, this woman wasn't loud, she wasn't dramatic, she was efficient. Cut to a clip from the terminal. "Evelyn, I'm not here for compensation. I'm here to reintroduce accountability to your boardroom." Back in the studio, the anchor nodded slowly. Her name was Evelyn, but this wasn't just about one woman. This was about a culture shift, and it started at Gate G27. Meanwhile, the ripple effect began. At 3 other major airports in Dallas, Detroit, and Newark, passengers waiting at their gates began asking louder questions. Why do gate agents target older black women more? Why are first-class customers still treated differently by skin tone? Who decides who looks like they belong? On social media, a new wave began. Not rage, but recognition. "My mom is 68, and I've seen her treated like nothing. Evelyn reminded me she's everything. I used to be a flight attendant. We saw this all the time. Thank you, Miss Carter." Her name was Evelyn, and now it's in history books. Even rival airlines responded and posted a statement. "We are reviewing our own boarding protocols to ensure all passengers are treated with equal dignity, regardless of appearance or assumptions." Another pledged to add senior black women to its customer review board, starting immediately. Inside Indigo's operations center, a new team was assembling. Not legal, not PR, but something different. A task force, diverse, experienced, and not afraid to speak plainly. At the top of its meeting agenda, printed in bold, "Equity is not a trend, it's policy, and it starts today." And Evelyn? She didn't stay to watch herself on the news. She declined all interviews. She left the airport quietly as the sun began to settle behind the Atlanta skyline. No limo, no security detail, just her in a private car. As they pulled away, the driver glanced at her in the mirror. "I saw what you did, ma'am," he said quietly. "My mother, she would have cried watching you." Evelyn smiled, just barely. "She probably wouldn't have cried," she replied. "She would have said, 'It's about damn time.'" 2 days later, something unusual happened in the U.S. Senate. Senator Renee Lawson, a 72-year-old black woman from North Carolina, stepped to the microphone with a printed photo in her hand. She didn't name names, she didn't yell, she simply held up the photo of Evelyn Carter at the press podium and said, "This is not just a viral moment. This is a policy moment." Then she introduced Bill 4431, a proposal requiring all federally regulated transportation agencies to create independent equity oversight panels with specific seats reserved for passengers over age 60. The bill's working title, the Carter Clause. In Atlanta, Indigo Aviation moved fast, not from guilt, but survival. They had suspended 3 gate staff, issued a public apology, and began the rollout of Evelyn's reform directives. Their stock dipped for 24 hours, then it surged. The reason? Shareholders trusted the woman who had written the plan. One executive, speaking anonymously, told a reporter, "We didn't lose value, we found our compass." Tamika Boyd, the live streamer who first shared Evelyn's story, woke up to 2.4 million followers and an offer from a major news network. She declined. Instead, she created a channel focused entirely on Black elders and travel. Her first episode, What to Do When They Try You at the Gate. In it, she interviewed a dozen Black women aged 60-80 about their worst travel experiences and what they wish they had said. The final clip was Evelyn's voice, calling in remotely. "Sometimes we don't get a do-overs, but every time you speak with grace and backbone, you give the next woman behind you a head start." In Chicago, a group of retired Delta employees sent a bouquet and handwritten note to Evelyn's Atlanta office. "We spent decades asking questions that went unanswered. You answered without even raising your voice. Thank you." And inside the Carter family home, quiet, modest, and filled with books, Evelyn's daughter came over with lemon cake and a bottle of wine. "Are you going to keep fighting?" she asked her mother, pouring a glass. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "Sweetheart, I never stopped." That night, Evelyn sat on her porch with a sweater around her shoulders and a mug of tea warming her hands. She watched the street, slow, quiet, real. A car drove past, then reversed. A woman, maybe in her 40s, stepped out nervously. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said. I had to say thank you." Evelyn smiled. "For what?" "For walking in there and making it easier for the rest of us to walk in too." A month passed. The news moved on, the headlines shifted, the internet got louder, then quiet again. But at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, one small thing had changed. At Terminal G, Gate 27, where it all began, a new plaque had been installed just beside the departure board. Simple, brass, unadvertised. Legacy Gate, dedicated to Evelyn Ruth Carter, because dignity shouldn't be requested, it should be assumed. No ribbon cutting, no cameras. But those who knew stopped, and sometimes they stood for a long time, reading the words twice, 3 times, as if saying it enough might make it permanent. Inside the terminal, things felt different, not perfect, but eyes lingered longer on moments that used to be invisible. An older woman being offered help before she had to ask. A gate agent lowering their tone instead of raising it. A flight crew meeting, starting with the phrase, "Let's remember who we serve." Tamika Boyd returned once, quietly, to film. She didn't speak to the camera. She just walked the terminal showing that plaque. The people. The stillness. At the end, she whispered, "This is how change looks. Not always loud, not always quick, but rooted, like her." And Evelyn? She didn't take another flight for a while, not because she feared the sky, but because she'd earned the right to pause, to sit still, to drink tea on her porch and smile at strangers who recognized her and others who didn't. One morning her granddaughter asked, "Grandma, are you famous now?" Evelyn chuckled, "I'm a little known, baby, but I've always been important." The child frowned. "What's the difference?" Avo looked out at the yard, blooming. "Fame means they talk about you. Importance means they change because of you." One Sunday evening, Evelyn returned to the airport. No cameras, no speeches, just her, a ticket, and a seat she chose herself. When the boarding call came, she stood slow, proud, steady, and walked down the jet bridge past a new sign installed above Gate G27. It read, "Now boarding, all passengers, no exceptions." Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this story. If you're like me, a daughter, a mother, a granddaughter, you've seen how often black women, especially our elders, are told to shrink, to wait, to be quiet, even when they've earned their place. But Evelyn didn't shrink. She didn't demand a seat. She owned the room. And that story reminded me, dignity isn't something we ask for. It's something we carry, and sometimes something we must defend. I hope this story stirred something in you, a memory, a question, a fire. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed someone reclaim their power just by standing still? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if it moved you. Share it with someone who needs to remember their worth. And don't forget to subscribe, because we've got more stories like this coming. And I want you right here with us when they do.